Well, good day, my fellow insurrectionists. How's your 2021 been so far? Off to a finger-licking good start, I know. Or what do you mean your pipeline job got put 6 feet under? Syria got some of that unity and healing we were promised.
Nazi fags.
The $2,000 stimmies got nerfed?
$1,400 checks to make the $2,000 whole. He had proposed.
To everyone's surprise, those skins some male athletes unlocked actually ended up affecting gameplay. I'll give you that one, that's gonna need a quick patch. And yes, some of the hotels at the border weren't actually 5 stars.
Basically.
Well, boo fucking who, alright? I've been having some real problems lately during my little hiatus, so I'd like to take 15 minutes to discuss the recent trauma I've put myself through over the last few months.
To make any kind of sense of it, I need to go back to the night the pain started.
So there I was, in my default state, playing Doom Eternal. It was October, not long after the Ancient Gods Part 1 expansion was released, and I'm just John Wicking my way through nightmare difficulty with the greatest of ease. You know how it is. Oh my good lord, wow, 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 wow. Oh no. Oh. Oh. Damn it! Get over here. God, come on, show me your pretty little head. Stop falling down! There you go. That didn't hit him! Oh shit! Oh my god!
I don't know if I'm the best.
You're very good.
Let's say good.
After what felt like shaving my teeth with a straight razor, I remember thinking, man, if the second arena was surely the Slayer Gate must be
Coronavirus!
Phew, oh god. Hey, y'all ready for the Slayer Gate? I'm not ashamed to say I quaked in my little Nas X's as I pulled the green sinew from that gore nest and awaited whatever fresh level of diversity training was on offer. Souvenir!
Ow, Daddy, my pussy.
Come on, show yourself.
Do it again.
Ah! Oh, finally.
Stop, stop,
Easy.
Several months later.
So there I am, in my default state, playing Doom Eternal. It was February and I was sharpening my skills for the upcoming Ancient Gods Part 2 expansion and the inevitable challenge it was to bring. Ha! Do the thing, son of a bitch. Ah! Alright, your turn to go. Exercise the demon, the power of Christ compels you! So I get to the Holt, and after what felt like shaving my teeth with a straight razor, I happened upon the Slayer Gate. Now you know what I'm thinking, right? Whew, time for a breather.
Wait a minute.
It's difficult.
Oh! No! At this point, I'm wondering if the 7 masks haven't been good for my health and I'm starting to hallucinate. I consulted the YouTube and found out that actually the Slayer Gate was changed. They just didn't tell anyone.
You are gay.
I think this is a fine time to discuss retroactive design work in general. In an era where all manner of changes can be made to even single-player games with a patch sent over the internet, it must be harder than ever for devs to resist changing their products on a whim. Say in a year your game ends up not appealing to your target demographic, or now you no longer think it accomplishes the design goals you set. Why not just go ahead and change it, right? Generally speaking, I think retroactive game design is a bad habit that I don't want to see id Software fall into. While change isn't inherently bad on its own, I think creators need to be very careful if they go down this road and really understand why they are making a change. Sometimes you can legitimately improve something, but many times you end up changing too much of what made the original great for very little in return. Let's take this example of the Holt Slayer Gate. Proving widespread voter fraud was a far easier task than completing this initially revised Slayer Gate. And don't get me wrong, obviously I love a fair challenge. I don't think this was a fair challenge, but that didn't stop me from trying to beat it for 3 weeks on end.
That's right, Senza, if that even is your name. I didn't even need a keyboard for my hot dog.
Could I have made this easier on myself with rune selection, or at least being topped off on ammo before entering?
What are you, a fan?
So in case you haven't seen this before, I'd like to document each tribulation I faced during this trial. Full disclosure, this is going to get a little technical, so if you're not as familiar with Doom Eternal, just bear with me, I'm going to do my best to explain. First of all,
The map!
the arena design became a big problem after the revision. I didn't have a problem with it on UAC Atlantica's Slayer Gate, but because of the types of enemies and the amounts of enemies they placed in here, I think it made the fight become very trial and error laden, tedious, and practically broken. Because of how fast I needed to move and the odd maneuvers I ended up making, I was open up to a lot more bugs as well. I've had quite a few collision failures after a stripper pole swing.
No way!
I'm not, no.
Not like this.
And this arena crashed the game at least twice. Now let's take a look at that enemy roster. First, you were tasked with taking down 3 Archies. The first 2 would spawn immediately, and then a third will spawn over in China in the far end of the map upon killing either of them. Now, if one spawned in enemies, it wasn't the end of the world, but more than that, you just throw any possibility of social distancing out the window. You're toast. If you aren't surgical with your stuns and DPS stacking, this can take you 3 times as long as it should. I think I died here the most times. Next is the Makers of Blood. Boy, do these things sting like a mean tweet. 3 would spawn in a triangle formation, and they're triggered after killing the 3rd Archvile or the last of whatever minions he spawned in. So if you're a scrub like me and you end up fighting Archie minions, this section can really take you by surprise. I'd say this part required the most blind luck to complete. It was a coin toss whether or not you get an unlucky spawn and all the Bloodmakers corner you and make you your Pornhub debut. Because their AoE blasts in this cramped arena are like shitting in a closed elevator. You just can't escape. Generally, this would be the fastest part of the fight for me, because if it wasn't, I would just die and have to start over. Once you off 2 of the Bloodmakers, 2 Skater Boys then spawn in, 1 on each side of the arena, and this section is actually not bad. There is still 1 Bloodmaker left over at this point, and a Dread Knight or 2 comes in to breathe down your neck. But once you defeat those domestic threats, you can breathe a little easier here. I'm not gonna lie though, at this point in the fight I would often just blow a BFG load here to soften everything up and move on. You don't have to do this, it just takes longer otherwise. Oh, but don't worry, we'll be getting back to Misery in just a moment. For now, it's time for the Piece de Resistance. Les Possessed Marauder. Yeah, he's kinda tough. When you actually get the chance to fight him, would you believe he isn't even the worst part of this fight? No. Because there were 3 carcasses that would spawn as fodder demons. This means that both you and the Marauder get to spend more time awkwardly navigating the arena and avoiding shields than actually fighting each other. It takes forever! What? There's really not even much else to say. When you get the chance to fight you fight him like a regular Marauder, just faster and for longer. At least, unlike any other demon to my knowledge, you can still grenade stun him when he's possessed, but God help you if you don't keep your plasma cells up and you don't pop that spirit in time, because we're still not done. Yeah, that's right. You get 1 more standard Marauder to fight, just in case this gate wasn't taking quite long enough to complete. I pity the fool that's gotta fight a 2nd possessed Marauder here. You could have ended up spending as much time here in the Slayer Gate as you do the entire level of the Holt. Now obviously 1 standard Marauder, unless you review video games professionally as a journalist, isn't going to give you trouble in any other context. At this point though, my nerves were so frayed, I was the white girl who couldn't even. It usually took me just as long to defeat this pumpkin spice drinking bitch as the possessed one. It's always in the back of your mind that one stupid mistake and you gotta do this whole goddamn thing again. But you know what? Where Rudy and Powell failed, I triumphed. See, I hope I made my case that the revision took things way too far. Now, I'm all for differences of opinion here, and, if you don't agree, I'd like to politely say,
Fuck off.
So, what does this Slayer Gate look like today after the release of the second DLC? Well, they got rid of the third Archie spawn at the start. You still need to employ skill to defeat the dueling Archies here before they spawn in more enemies, but man, what a difference not having to worry about that frustrating third spawn. It picks up the arena's pace tremendously from the start. They've also significantly changed the Bloodmaker spawn. I'd argue a much smarter configuration. Now you have a much more tolerable one Bloodmaker and a Hell Knight chasing your ass. So you gotta keep the Bloodmaker at bay and not let the Hell Knight make you a romance novel protagonist. I think that's a nice challenge. If you kill the Bloodmaker at any point, the Skater Boy section starts up and it remains very much unchanged.
Good.
And hey, the Possessed Marauder is still here in all his glory, but with only 2 carcasses that don't respawn when you kill them. I think this is the best and most necessary change. Like, if you want to use their shields to block his movement, cool, just leave the carcass alive. But if you ask me, I just like to delete these sacks and go mano-y-mano like God intended. Then once the spirit feels safe coming out of the closet, 2 carcasses do get respawned, but with a Hell Knight instead. This is good, it still preserves a big risk for a harsh punish if you let the spirit get away, as possessed Hell Knights in this cramped arena are not to be trifled with, but it isn't overwhelmingly frustrating or at worst time consuming. So what is the point of showing you all this? You can't rightly play this version of the Slayer Gate, so who cares? Well, let me ask you this. What if id Software never changed this in the first place? After the third revision, I think it is way better than it first was, but at what cost? And was it really even worth doing? What was the reason for the change, and were people really asking for it? Personally, if I had to critique the use of Slayer Gates in Ancient Gods 1, it was that they hardly earned distinction since every arena felt like a Slayer Gate. Now, I don't know how many people were complaining about the ease of difficulty, but was any of this really a problem worth addressing? Hey, what about the people who ended up liking the second, I'd argue, broken Slayer Gate more? What about the people that wanted that challenge and never got the chance to tackle it? You see, if you aren't fixing an outright bug and you're focusing more on nebulous improvements, it's hard to tell if you're really changing something for the right reasons. In this case, I think it paid off, but you can't really please everyone, and oh boy, speaking of which, the release of Ancient Gods 2, regardless of how you felt about the expansion, also saw many changes to arena designs, enemy spawns, and enemy AI in the previously released games.
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
While I didn't feel the need to set a used car lot on fire over this, I wasn't happy to hear that and was worried about the future of a game I thought was, already finished. I found it even contradictory to their messaging all last year, which typically went something like, "Oh, hey there, bud. I see you don't like fighting the Marauder. Do you not like fighting that Marauder? Well, I hear you, bud. Tell you what we're gonna do for you. The DLC? Here's 2 Marauders at once. You enjoy. No, please, you enjoy that." I love that. Now, I don't want to get into all of the changes in this video, but I'll say that by nature they were very polarizing. Now, these changes appear to be made with good intent, to balance the game for most players in the middle who might have found the initial designs too frustrating, but they are inevitably made at the expense of players who enjoy the hardest stuff Doom can throw at them. A creator needs to be really careful if they go down this road and really understand why they are making these changes. I will say, so far, I think id Software typically exemplifies that awareness. They're not just taking a sentinel hammer to the entire experience and trivializing the whole game. And case in point, they listened to community feedback and they've planned to walk back many of these changes. I appreciate them staying active and wanting to improve things where they can, but changes like this can't be made lightly or too often. Because they have to go now revert a bunch of these changes, I'll say again, was a lot of this stuff really worth changing in the first place? I mean, could a tutorial level for the DLC or maybe a focus on pointing out the difficulty levels be a better solution? They definitely have a level head about things now, but if allowed to continue, what does that mean for the game going forward? Like, I don't think any of us want to see the entire base campaign get rebalanced anytime soon, and certainly without damn good reason. If anything, I'd suggest when it looks at all the player data that's gathered by Bethesda servers, using that information as a jumping off point to a community conversation rather than an immediate call to action. So now I'd like to know what you crazy bitches think. I'd argue most of the time it's best to just let well enough alone, but what do you think about devs patching single player games that are already finished, for better or worse? I may make another video discussing the changes made to Doom Eternal in more detail, but for now I'll just leave a playlist here with a few runs of each of the different Holt Slayer Gate versions. Just because I like ya. One more thing. If you're watching, stick to your big freaking guns, id Software. But if you do make a sweeping change like this, please just put it in the patch notes.